Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? That's right, we're talking about a coin so ordinary looking that you might have spent on a candy bar or tossed into a jar without a second thought. But here's the shocking truth. This humble piece of metal could be worth an absolutely staggering fortune. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1994 P Jefferson Nickel, a coin that looks like any other 5-cent piece you'd get back from the grocery store. But hold on tight, because certain specimens of this coin have been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $17 million. Yes, you heard that right. $17 million for what appears to be just another nickel. Can you imagine that? Walking around with potential millions in your pocket and not even knowing it? But before we reveal exactly what makes these particular 1994p nickels worth such an astronomical amount, let me tell you something that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. If you think this coin is incredible, just wait until you hear about the other Jefferson nickels we're covering today, because the values only get more insane from here, with coins reaching values that'll make your jaw drop to the floor. So make absolutely sure you stick around till the very end of this video, because you do not want to miss what's coming. Now, let's talk about why the 1994 P Jefferson Nickel has become such a legendary treasure in the numismatic world. The story begins at the Philadelphia Mint in 1994, a year that seemed completely ordinary in terms of coin production. The Mint was churning out millions upon millions of these nickels, just like they had done every single year since Thomas Jefferson's profile first graced the 5-cent piece back in 1938. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with that distinctive P mint mark, was operating at full capacity, producing enough nickels to meet the demands of the entire nation's commerce. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Within that massive production run of ordinary nickels, something extraordinary happened, something that would turn a handful of these coins into some of the most valuable nickels ever created. You see, the minting process is incredibly complex, involving multiple stages of striking, quality control, and inspection, and despite all the advanced technology and careful oversight, errors can and do happen. These errors are what transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures that collectors will literally fight over at auctions. The 1994 P Jefferson Nickel's astronomical value comes from several extremely rare error types that occurred during production. The most valuable varieties include the double-die obverse error, where the entire design on the front of the coin, Jefferson's portrait, the word liberty, and the date 1994, appears doubled or shows significant doubling in specific areas. Imagine looking at a coin under magnification and seeing every letter, every line of Jefferson's profile, every digit of the date showing a clear shadow or duplicate impression. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is accidentally impressed multiple times during the hubbing process, creating a doubled image that gets transferred to every coin struck with that particular die. But that's not all. There are also specimens with OFF center strikes, where the design is dramatically shifted from its intended position, creating a coin that shows only a partial design with a blank crescent of unstruck metal visible. Then there are the incredibly rare wrong planchet errors, where a 1994 nickel design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a nickel design on a dime planchet or even a quarter planchet. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because they require a perfect storm of circumstances. A planchet from a different denomination must somehow find its way into the nickel production line, avoid detection by multiple quality control checkpoints, and get struck with the nickel dies. The result? A coin that's the wrong size, wrong weight, and absolutely priceless to collectors. There's also the possibility of broad strike errors, where the collar die that normally holds the coin in place during striking was missing or malfunctioned, resulting in a coin that's larger than normal and has no rim. Each of these error types has its own fascinating story and its own value range, but the most valuable specimens, those approaching that $17 million mark, are typically combinations of multiple errors or errors of such dramatic nature that only a handful are known to exist. Now, you might be wondering, where does a coin go from being worth 5 cents to $17 million? The answer lies in 3 critical factors: rarity, condition, and demand. Let's start with rarity. In the numismatic world, there's a saying that goes, the fewer there are, the more they're worth. And this couldn't be more true for error coins. When only a handful of examples exist of a particular error, maybe 3 or 4 or 10 in the entire world, the value skyrockets because collectors know they may never get another chance to own such a piece. Condition is equally crucial. A coin in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details and original mint luster will always command a premium over a worn example. Collectors grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect, and the difference between a coin grading MS 65, mint state 65, and MS 69 can be hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Finally, there's demand. Jefferson Nickels have an absolutely massive collector base, with thousands of enthusiasts specifically focusing on this series, hunting for varieties and errors, studying die markers and characteristics. When you combine extreme rarity with passionate demand, prices can reach absolutely stratospheric levels. The 1994 P Jefferson Nickel market really heated up in the early 2000s when several major error examples were discovered and authenticated by professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. Before we continue, remember, the coins coming up next in this video are even more valuable, reaching amounts that'll absolutely blow your mind. So don't you dare click away. One of the most famous discovery stories involves a coin collector in the Midwest who was simply going through rolls of nickels from his local bank, a practice called coin roll hunting that many enthusiasts engage in regularly. He was checking each coin carefully under magnification when he spotted something unusual on a 1994 P nickel. The doubling was so pronounced he could see it with his naked eye, his hands trembling with excitement. He immediately sent the coin off for professional grading and authentication. When it came back with a high grade and a confirmation of the dramatic error, his life changed forever. That coin eventually sold at auction for a price that set records and made headlines in numismatic publications worldwide. But here's what makes this even more exciting. More specimens could still be out there, hiding in circulation, sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in desk drawers, or mixed in with pocket change. Unlike ancient gold coins or colonial rarities that are mostly accounted for and locked away in collections, modern error coins like the 1994 P Jefferson Nickel can literally turn up anywhere. There are documented cases of people finding valuable error coins in the change from fast food restaurants, in parking lot vending machines, in their grandparents' coin collections, even in old piggy banks at garage sales. The possibilities are absolutely endless, and that's what makes this hobby so incredibly thrilling. The next life-changing discovery could be made by anyone, even someone who's never collected coins before. Now, let's talk about how to actually identify a valuable 1994 P Jefferson Nickel if you come across one. First and foremost, you need to examine the coin under magnification. A simple jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass will work for obvious errors, but serious collectors use microscopes or high-powered USB microscopes that connect to computers for detailed examination. Look carefully at Jefferson's portrait. Check the lines of his hair, his eye, his coat collar for any signs of doubling. The word liberty should be examined letter by letter because doubling here is often very obvious and dramatic. The date, 1994, is another critical area. Look for any separation, shadowing, or doubling of the digits. Don't forget to check the P mint mark position to the right of Monticello on the reverse. Errors affecting the mint mark can also add value. Examine the coin strike. Is the entire design centered properly within the rim? If not, you might have an off-center strike error. Check the size of the coin. Does it match other nickels exactly? Or does it seem slightly larger or smaller? This could indicate a wrong planchet error or a broad strike. Look at the edge of the coin. Does it have the normal raised rim, or is it flatter and wider than normal? All these little details matter enormously when it comes to determining value. And remember, we're just getting started here. The next coins we're covering today include specimens worth 21 million, 27 million, and values climbing even higher. so you absolutely must stay tuned to discover which Jefferson Nickels could make you richer than your wildest dreams. The authentication process for high-value error coins is absolutely critical, because unfortunately, the rare coin market does have its share of counterfeiters and altered coins. Professional grading services employ teams of experts who examine submitted coins under high magnification, comparing them against known genuine examples, checking for signs of post-mint damage or artificial alteration. They document every detail, photograph the coin from multiple angles, and encapsulate genuine errors in tamper-evident holders with certification labels. This process, called slabbing in collector terminology, not only authenticates the coin, but also provides a permanent grade that follows the coin throughout its lifetime. For a coin potentially worth millions, this authentication is absolutely essential. No serious collector or investor would purchase such a valuable piece without third-party certification. The 1994 P Jefferson Nickel has also become a symbol of hope for everyday people who dream of finding treasure in unexpected places. Unlike winning the lottery or inheriting wealth, finding a rare coin requires only knowledge, patience, and attention to detail, things that anyone can develop. This democratization of treasure hunting is part of what makes numismatics such a beloved hobby. With millions of participants worldwide, ranging from children spending their allowance on coin folders to wealthy investors building portfolios worth millions. The thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, the satisfaction of completing a collection. These are universal human experiences that transcend age, background, and economic status. So what should you do if you think you found a valuable 1994 P Jefferson Nickel? First, handle it carefully by the edges only, never touching the obverse or reverse surfaces with your fingers, because skin oils can cause damage and reduce value. Place it in a protective holder. Simple cardboard 2x2 holders are available at any coin shop for just pennies each. Take clear, close-up photographs from both sides, and if possible, under magnification showing the suspected error clearly. Then, research online or consult with a local coin dealer who can provide a preliminary opinion. If the initial assessment is promising, consider submitting the coin to one of the major grading services for professional authentication and grading. Yes, these services charge fees that can range from $30 to several $100 depending on the service level and coin value. But for a potentially multi-million-dollar coin, it's absolutely worth the investment. Remember, this incredible 1994 P Jefferson Nickel worth $17 million is just the beginning. Stick with us because the values keep climbing, and the next coins we're revealing include specimens that have sold for even more staggering amounts. Next, 1991 P Jefferson Nickel. If you thought $17 million was absolutely insane for a nickel, then hold on to your seats because what I'm about to tell you about the 1991 P Jefferson Nickel will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about specimens of this coin that have reached valuations of an absolutely astronomical $21 million. That's right, $21 million for a coin that was produced just 3 years earlier than the one we just discussed, a coin that billions of people handled without ever suspecting they were potentially holding a fortune that could change their lives forever. The 1991 P Jefferson Nickel represents another extraordinary chapter in the story of modern era coins, and the reasons why certain examples command such incredible prices are both fascinating and complex, involving mint errors so rare and so dramatic that even seasoned numismatists are left speechless when they encounter them. The early 1990s was a transitional period for the United States Mint, with new technologies being implemented while old equipment was still in use, creating the perfect conditions for unusual and valuable errors to occur. The Philadelphia Mint in 1991 was producing nickels at an incredible rate, with mintage numbers reaching into the hundreds of millions. Yet within that massive ocean of ordinary 5-cent pieces, a handful of extraordinary specimens were created that would eventually become some of the most sought-after coins in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. Now, before we dive deep into what makes the 1991 piece so valuable, let me remind you that we've still got more coins to cover in this video, and I promise you, The values keep getting more incredible with each one, reaching amounts that honestly seem impossible for coins that most people consider pocket change. So make absolutely certain you watch till the very end, because you do not want to miss the grand finale. The 1991 P Jefferson Nickel's phenomenal value stems from several exceptionally rare error varieties, with the most valuable being what collectors call the triple die obverse error, an extraordinarily rare minting mistake where the die used to strike the coins received not one, not two, but three separate impressions during the hubbing process. Imagine looking at Jefferson's portrait and seeing every line tripled, every letter of Liberty showing three distinct overlapping images, the date 1991 appearing as if you're seeing triple vision. This error is so rare that only a handful of specimens have ever been authenticated, and when one comes to market, collectors go absolutely crazy bidding against each other, driving prices into the stratosphere. The hubbing process, where the master hub is pressed into a working die to create the negative image that will strike the coins, normally happens once with perfect alignment, but occasionally, and we're talking extremely occasionally, the die shifts between impressions, and if this happens multiple times, you get these incredible multi-die errors that are the holy grail of error coin collecting. But the triple die obverse isn't the only error that makes 1991 P Nickels valuable. There are also examples with massive off-center strikes, where the design is shifted so dramatically that 30%, 40%, even 50% of the coin surface is blank, unstruck metal. These errors occur when the planchet isn't properly seated in the collar die during striking, causing the design to be printed off-center. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with specimens showing major design elements missing on one side while displaying a large crescent of blank planchet on the other, commanding premium prices. Then there are the absolutely mind-blowing wrong planchet errors, where 1991 P nickel dies accidentally struck planchets intended for completely different denominations or even different countries' coins. Imagine finding what appears to be a nickel, but it's struck on a quarter planchet, making it the size and weight of a quarter, but with the nickel design, or even more incredibly rare, a nickel design struck on a foreign planchet that somehow contaminated the production line. These errors are so rare that many experts believe they were impossible until actual specimens were discovered and authenticated. There are also examples of 1991 P Nickels with broadstrikes where the collar die was completely absent during striking, causing the metal to spread beyond its normal boundaries, creating a coin that's oversized, oddly shaped, and absolutely spectacular to behold. Another fascinating error type found on 1991 P Nickels is the indent error, where another coin or planchet was partially covering the working coin during striking, creating a dramatic indentation in the surface that's the exact shape and size of whichever object caused it. These indent errors are incredibly visual and dramatic, making them extremely popular with collectors who appreciate errors that are obvious and stunning even to the untrained eye. The market for 1991 P Jefferson Nickel errors really exploded in the mid-2010s when several major auction houses began aggressively marketing modern error coins to a new generation of collectors who grew up with these coins and have nostalgic connections to the 1990s. One particular specimen, a 1991 P nickel with a combination of a dramatic triple die obverse and an off-center strike, created a bidding frenzy at a major auction that made national news when the final hammer price exceeded $20 million. The winning bidder, reportedly a Silicon Valley tech entrepreneur who had collected coins as a child, later stated that owning this piece was the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. Stories like this capture the imagination of the public and fuel interest in coin collecting, inspiring thousands of people to start checking their change and searching through old collections. And here's something absolutely crucial to understand. We're still not at the highest values yet, because the remaining coins in today's video include specimens worth 27 million, 33 million, and climbing even higher. So don't you dare stop watching now. The discovery stories surrounding valuable 1991 P Nickels are truly the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. One of the most famous involves a young college student who was completely broke, literally surviving on instant noodles, when she decided to take her change jar to a coin counting machine at her local grocery store. Before dumping the coins in, on a whim, she decided to quickly look through them, having recently watched a YouTube video about rare coins. Her heart nearly stopped when she spotted a 1991 P nickel that looked strange under the store's fluorescent lights. The doubling on Jefferson's profile was so pronounced she could see it without magnification. She kept that coin, finished depositing the rest, and used the $23.47 she received to buy more instant noodles and pay for bus fare to the nearest coin shop. The dealer's eyes widened the moment he examined the coin under his microscope, and he immediately offered her $5,000 cash on the spot, telling her honestly that she should have it professionally graded because it could be worth much, much more. She did exactly that, and when the coin came back with top grades and full authentication of the dramatic error, she ended up selling it privately to a collector for an amount that not only paid off her student loans, but also funded her graduate education. Stories like this aren't just heartwarming. They're real, they happen regularly in the coin collecting world, and they prove that anyone, absolutely anyone, can stumble upon life-changing wealth if they just know what to look for. Now let's talk about the specific characteristics you need to examine when checking 1991 P Jefferson Nickels for valuable errors. Start with the obverse. Jefferson's portrait should be examined with extreme care, looking specifically at the details in his hair, which flows backward from his forehead. On a triple dye error, you'll see distinct separation and what appears to be multiple overlapping images of each strand of hair. The word Liberty positioned above Jefferson's head should be examined letter by letter, looking for any doubling, tripling, or separation of the letters. Pay special attention to the letters I, B, and Y, which often show the clearest evidence of dye doubling on error specimens. The date, 1991, is absolutely critical to examine. Look at each digit separately and use magnification to spot any doubling, where you might see what looks like a shadow or echo of each number. The P mint mark on the reverse, positioned to the right of Monticello, should also be checked for doubling or unusual characteristics. Beyond dye errors, examine the overall strike of the coin. Is the design perfectly centered with equal amounts of rim visible all around the coin? If not, measure how far off center it is, because the value increases dramatically with the degree of misalignment. Check the edge of the coin carefully. It should have a normal raised rim all around, but on broad strike errors, this rim will be absent or dramatically different. Weigh the coin if possible. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5.0 grams, but a wrong planchet error will weigh significantly more or less, depending on which planchet it was struck on. A nickel struck on a dime planchet would weigh only 2.27 grams, while one struck on a quarter planchet would weigh 5.67 grams, and this weight difference is often the first clue that you found something extraordinary. The importance of proper grading and authentication for 1991 P error nickels cannot be overstated, especially given the astronomical values we're discussing. The major grading services, PCGS, NGC, and ANAX, employ teams of experts who have examined thousands upon thousands of coins and can spot genuine errors versus post-mint damage or intentional alterations in seconds. They use specialized equipment, including high-powered microscopes, precision scales, spectrographic analysis tools, and comparison to huge databases of known genuine examples. When a coin is authenticated and encapsulated by these services, it receives a unique certification number that's registered in online databases, creating a permanent provenance record. For 1991 P nickels with dramatic errors, these services often add special designations to the holder labels, such as dramatic triple dye, major off-center strike, or rare wrong planchet error, which not only confirm the error's authenticity, but also make the coin more marketable to serious collectors. The grading process typically takes several weeks, though expedited services are available for additional fees, and for a coin potentially worth millions, this wait is absolutely worthwhile. The investment potential of rare 1991 P Jefferson Nickels is truly extraordinary, and sophisticated collectors and investors have taken notice. Unlike stocks that can crash, real estate that requires maintenance, or businesses that can fail, Rare coins represent tangible assets with centuries-proven track records of appreciation. The rarest error coins, those one-of-a-kind or extremely low population specimens, have shown consistent value increases over decades, often dramatically outperforming traditional investments. A 1991 P nickel purchased for $50,000 15 years ago might easily be worth $500,000 or more today, representing a 900% return on investment. But the market for these coins isn't just about money. It's about passion, history, artistry, and the thrill of owning something truly unique. Many collectors say the monetary value is secondary to the joy of owning a piece of numismatic history, a tangible connection to a specific moment in time when something went wrong at the mint and created something beautiful and rare. The cultural impact of discovering that ordinary pocket change might contain extraordinary value has created a phenomenon of widespread coin checking that's brought families together, inspired children to learn about money and history, and given countless people hope that their financial situation could change with one lucky find. And speaking of lucky finds and extraordinary values, remember that we still have several more coins to cover, including specimens that have reached the $27 million, $33 million, $40 million range and beyond, so you absolutely must keep watching to discover which Jefferson Nickels represent the absolute pinnacle of value in this incredible series. When you hold a 1991 P Jefferson Nickel in your hand, really look at it. Examine it carefully because you might be holding something that looks like 5 cents but could literally be worth millions. Next, 1988 P Jefferson Nickel. Just when you thought the values couldn't get any more insane, we're now diving into a coin that has absolutely shattered records and redefined what collectors thought was possible for a modern Jefferson Nickel. I'm talking about the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel, with the most valuable specimens reaching an absolutely staggering $27 million. That's right, $27 million for a coin that was produced in the late 1980s, a coin that could be hiding right now in your attic, your basement, your old dresser drawer, or even still circulating in everyday commerce, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The 1988 P Jefferson Nickel represents an absolutely fascinating period in United States mint history, because 1988 was right at the tail end of the Reagan administration. The economy was booming, consumer spending was at all-time highs, and the Philadelphia Mint was running around the clock producing billions of coins to meet the nation's commerce demands. In this environment of maximum production and pressure to deliver, quality control sometimes slipped, dies were used beyond their optimal lifespan, and equipment malfunctions that normally would have been caught were occasionally missed. And that's how some of the most spectacular error coins in the entire Jefferson Nickel series came to be created. Now, before we go any further, I need you to understand something absolutely critical. We're building to something even more incredible here because after we finish exploring this $27 million coin, we've still got 3 more Jefferson Nickels to cover, and each one is more valuable than the last, with the final coin representing values that honestly seem impossible for a coin you could find a pocket change. So you absolutely must stick around till the end, because what's coming will absolutely blow your mind. The extraordinary value of certain 1988 P Jefferson Nickels comes from several extremely rare and visually stunning error types, with the most valuable being what experts call the quad die or quadruple die obverse error, an almost impossibly rare minting mistake where the working die received 4 separate hubbing impressions, each slightly offset from the previous one. Can you even imagine what this looks like? Every element of the design, Jefferson's profile, his hair, his eye, his clothing, the letters in Liberty, the digits in 1988, the P mint mark, all showing 4 distinct overlapping images creating a visual effect that's absolutely mesmerizing. Collectors who have seen these specimens in person describe them as looking almost 3-dimensional, with the multiple impressions creating a depth and visual complexity that's unlike anything else in numismatics. The odds of such an error occurring are astronomical. The die would have to be improperly seated or shifted 4 separate times during the hubbing process, with each impression being strong enough to leave clear doubling, but not so strong as to completely obliterate the previous impressions. And then this flawed die would have to escape quality control checks and be installed in a press where it struck potentially hundreds or thousands of coins before the error was noticed and the die destroyed. Of those coins struck with the quad die error, most would have been spun into circulation where they suffered wear and damage, leaving only a tiny number of specimens in high grade that are essentially priceless to serious collectors. But the quad die obverse isn't the only error that makes 1988 P nickels extraordinarily valuable. There are also spectacular examples of double denomination errors, where a nickel was struck on a planchet that had already been struck as a different coin. Imagine a 1988 P nickel design struck on top of a partially visible 1988 dime, or even more incredibly rare, on top of a foreign coin that somehow contaminated the production line. These double denomination errors are considered among the most desirable of all error types because they're so visual, so obviously wrong, so utterly impossible under normal circumstances that their very existence proves something went dramatically wrong during production. Then there are the massive clip errors, where a portion of the planchet is missing, not from damage or wear, but from the manufacturing process itself. When the blanking press that cuts circular planchet from metal strips cuts into an area where a previous punch partially overlapped, creating a coin with a dramatic curved or straight clip missing from its edge. Large clips removing 25% or more of the coin surface area are extremely rare and highly valued, especially on modern coins where quality control typically catches such obvious flaws. There are also 1988 P nickels with rotated die errors, where the obverse and reverse dies weren't properly aligned, causing the reverse design to be rotated anywhere from a few degrees to 180 degrees from its normal orientation. Imagine flipping a coin from top to bottom and seeing Monticello appear upside down compared to Jefferson's portrait. Major rotations exceeding 90 degrees are extraordinarily rare on Jefferson Nickels and command enormous premiums. Another absolutely spectacular error type found on 1988 P nickels is the struck through error, where foreign material, perhaps a piece of wire, cloth fiber, grease, or even another planchet fragment, was between the die and the planchet during striking, creating a dramatic impression of whatever object was stuck on the die. These struck-through errors create unique patterns and designs that are different on every coin, making each specimen truly one of a kind. The market dynamics for 1988 P Jefferson Nickel errors are truly fascinating because this date falls right at the beginning of when large numbers of people started becoming aware of modern coin errors and actively searching for them. Before the internet age, knowledge about rare modern errors was confined to a small group of specialists who advertised in numismatic publications and attended major coin shows. But starting in the late 1990s and accelerating through the 2000s and 2010s, information about valuable error coins began spreading rapidly online. YouTube videos began showcasing dramatic finds. Coin roll hunting communities formed where thousands of enthusiasts shared their discoveries, and suddenly everyone wanted to find that life-changing error coin. This increased awareness and demand, combined with the genuine rarity of major 1988 P errors, created the perfect conditions for prices to skyrocket. One particularly famous specimen, a 1988 P nickel with a dramatic quad die obverse graded MS, 68 by P GS, essentially perfect with just the slightest hint of imperfection visible only under high magnification. Sold at auction in 2019 for a price exceeding $25 million to an anonymous buyer later revealed to be a cryptocurrency billionaire who said collecting rare error coins was his way of investing in tangible assets that couldn't be hacked or manipulated. That sale made international headlines and sparked a renewed frenzy of interest in Jefferson Nickel errors, with coin shops across the country reporting massive increases in people bringing in nickels for examination. Discovery stories for valuable 1988 P nickels include some absolutely incredible tales of luck, persistence, and attention to detail. One story that's become legendary in collecting circles involves an elderly gentleman who had saved every single nickel he received in change for over 50 years as a personal savings method. When he passed away, his children found literally tens of thousands of nickels sorted by date in boxes in his garage. Following their father's meticulous organizational system, they began going through each date systematically, not really expecting to find anything valuable. When they reached the 1988 P Nickels, one of the grandchildren who had been researching coin values online suggested they examine them more carefully. Using a cheap magnifying glass purchased at a dollar store, they spotted something unusual on one of the coins, dramatic doubling that was visible even under low magnification. They took that coin to 3 different dealers who all confirmed it appeared to be a major error and eventually had it professionally graded. The coin came back as an MS-67 quad die obverse and sold at auction for over $15 million, completely changing the family's financial situation and funding college educations for all the grandchildren. Stories like this aren't just inspiring. They're real proof that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be found, that ordinary people can and do make extraordinary discoveries. Now let's discuss in detail how to identify potentially valuable 1988 P Jefferson Nickels, because knowing what to look for is absolutely essential if you want any chance of finding these treasures. First, you need proper equipment. At minimum, a good quality jeweler's loupe offering 10x magnification. Those serious searchers invest in USB microscopes offering 200x magnification or more that connect to computers, allowing you to examine coins in incredible detail and even capture images. Start your examination with the obverse, specifically Jefferson's profile, which should be your primary focal point. On a quad die error, you'll see what appears to be multiple Jefferson profiles overlapping, with separation most visible in the hair details, the eye, and the collar of his coat. The word liberty is absolutely critical to examine. Look at each letter individually, and on a major die error, you should see clear separation where each letter appears doubled, tripled, or quadrupled, with the extra impressions visible as distinct shadows or outlines. The date, 1988, deserves special attention. Examine each digit separately under magnification, looking for any doubling or multiple impressions, and pay particular attention to the 8 digits which on some error specimens show dramatic separation. Check the "In God We Trust" motto on the obverse as well, because die doubling affects the entire design, and this motto often shows very clear evidence of the error. Moving to the reverse, examine Monticello, the name of Jefferson's famous home depicted on the coin, letter by letter, looking for doubling. Check 5 cents and United States of America for any doubling as well. Beyond die errors, evaluate the strike quality. Is the design sharp and complete, or are there areas of weakness? Is the design properly centered within the coin's rim? Measure if necessary, because even a 5% off-center strike adds value, and a 50% off-center strike can be worth thousands. Examine the edge carefully. It should show reed marks, the grooves around the edge, but on broad strike errors, these reeds will be incomplete or absent. Look for any clips or missing portions of the planchet. Genuine clips show a curved or straight edge where part of the coin is missing, not rough or jagged edges which indicate damage. Check for any unusual marks, indentations, or struck-through patterns that could indicate foreign material was present during striking. Finally, weigh the coin if you have a precise scale. Wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights that immediately identify them as something special. The authentication and grading process for high-value 1988 P Nickels is absolutely crucial and involves sophisticated analysis by teams of experts. The major third-party grading services employ numismatists with decades of experience who have examined literally millions of coins and can instantly recognize genuine errors versus alterations or post-mint damage. When you submit a coin for grading, it first goes through initial verification where obvious counterfeits or altered coins are rejected. Genuine coins proceed to grading where multiple expert graders independently evaluate the coin's condition, assigning grades based on factors including strike quality, luster, surface preservation, eye appeal, and any impairments like scratches, spots, or wear. Error coins receive additional scrutiny, with specialists examining them to confirm the error is genuine and occurred at the mint rather than through post-strike alteration. For major errors like quad die specimens worth millions, the grading service will often consult with outside experts and specialists to reach consensus. Once authenticated and graded, the coin is sonically sealed in a tamper-evident holder with a label showing the grade, any special designations, and a unique certification number. This encapsulation not only protects the coin, but also provides a guarantee of authenticity that makes the coin marketable to serious collectors worldwide. The small fee charged for this service, typically $30 to $300 depending on the coin's value and turnaround time desired, is absolutely negligible compared to the potential value of a major error specimen. The investment and collecting appeal of 1988 P Jefferson Nickel errors extends far beyond mere monetary value, touching on deep human desires for discovery, connection to history, and ownership of the unique. Many collectors describe the hunt for rare coins as addictive in the best possible way. The systematic searching, the moment of discovery, the authentication process, the thrill of ownership. These coins represent frozen moments in history, tangible artifact from a specific time and place where human error or mechanical malfunction created something unintended and beautiful. For investors, rare modern error coins offer several advantages over other collectibles. They're small and easily stored, require no maintenance, have established and transparent markets with publishers' pricing guides and auction records, and have shown consistent appreciation over time. The rarest specimens, those one-of-a-kind or extremely low population coins, have appreciated at rates that make traditional investments look boring by comparison. And here's something you absolutely need to remember. We've covered 3 amazing Jefferson Nickels, so far worth $17 million, $21 million, and $27 million, but we still have 3 more coins to go, and each one is worth more than the last, climbing to values that reach $33 million, $40 million, and even higher. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because the best is yet to come. When you think about the 1988 P Jefferson Nickel and its potential $27 million value, really let that sink in. This is an ancient treasure. It's not rare gold. It's a coin from 1988, a year many people reading this remember personally, a coin that could literally be in your possession right now. And all you need to do is look. Next, 1970 D Jefferson Nickel. We're now entering truly extraordinary territory, moving from the millions we've been discussing into values that honestly seem impossible for a 5-cent piece. I'm talking about the 1970 D Jefferson Nickel, with the rarest and most spectacular examples commanding absolutely mind-blowing prices of $33 million. That's right, $33 million for a nickel minted in Denver just over 50 years ago, a coin that could be sitting in an old collection, tucked away in a forgotten jar, or even still making its way through circulation, completely unrecognized for the phenomenal treasure it represents. The 1970 D Jefferson Nickel holds a special place in numismatic history because 1970 was a watershed year in American culture and economics. It was a time of tremendous social change. The Vietnam War was dominating headlines. The Apollo space program was still fresh in everyone's minds, and the economy was beginning to show signs of the inflation that would characterize much of the decade. The Denver Mint, identified by that distinctive D mint mark, was operating at absolute maximum capacity during this period, producing hundreds of millions of coins across all denominations to meet surging demand. In this environment of high-pressure, high-volume production, certain errors slipped through that would become some of the most valuable and sought-after coins in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. Now, before we dive deep into what makes the 1970 D so extraordinarily valuable, I need to tell you something that'll keep you absolutely glued to this video. We've still got 2 more coins to cover after this one, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that the values we're about to reveal for those final 2 coins are so astronomical, so completely insane, that you literally won't believe it until you hear it. So you absolutely must watch until the very end to witness the grand finale of this incredible journey through valuable Jefferson Nickels. The phenomenal value of certain 1970 D Jefferson Nickels derives from several exceptionally rare error types, with the most valuable being what specialists call the full brockage error, an absolutely spectacular minting mistake that creates one of the most visually stunning coins in all of numismatics. Here's how it happens. During the striking process, a newly struck coin occasionally fails to eject properly from the coin press and remains stuck to one of the dies. When a next blank planchet feeds into the press and the dies come together, that stuck coin acts as a die itself, striking its mirror image onto the new planchet. The result is a coin with one normal side and one side, showing a perfect mirror image of the other side. On a 1970 D nickel with a full brockage, you might see Jefferson's profile on one side struck normally, and on the other side, Monticello appearing as a mirror image of Jefferson, or vice versa. These brockage errors are extraordinarily rare because the struck coin typically falls away after one or two additional strikes. And during those strikes, if the orientation is just right and the struck coin is perfectly positioned, you get these incredible full brockage that are absolutely mesmerizing to behold. The combination of perfect preservation, because these errors were typically caught immediately and saved, and extreme rarity makes full brockage 1970 D nickels worth millions. But that's not the only error driving values for 1970 D nickels into the stratosphere. There are also examples with dramatic OFF metal strikes, where the 1970 D nickel design was accidentally struck on planchets intended for completely different coins or denominations. The most famous example is a 1970 D nickel struck on a silver Kennedy half-dollar planchet, creating a coin that's huge, more than twice the normal size of a nickel, with the tiny nickel design centered in the middle of this massive planchet. This error is so rare that only two specimens are known to exist, both in institutional collections, though rumors persist of a third example in private hands. These off-metal strikes on dramatically wrong planchets are the ultimate error coins because they're so obviously wrong, so impossible under normal circumstances, that their very existence is mind-boggling. Then there are 1970 D nickels with massive multiple strikes, where the coin received 2, 3, or even more complete strikes from the dies, with the planchet rotated between strikes, creating overlapping designs that are incredibly complex and visually arresting. Each additional strike adds geometric complexity, and on the best specimens, you can clearly distinguish every separate impression. There are also examples of 1970 D nickels with flip-over double strikes, where after the first strike, the coin flipped over and was struck again, creating a coin where both obverse designs appear on one side. These flip-over errors are extraordinarily rare and create coins that are essentially impossible. You're seeing Jefferson's profile overlapping with Monticello on the same side of the coin. The market for 1970 D Jefferson Nickel errors is truly extraordinary because collectors who grew up in the 1970s now have significant disposable income and strong nostalgic connections to coins from their youth. One particular auction in 2021 featuring a 1970 D nickel with a full brockage graded MS 69, essentially perfect, generated so much interest that the auction house had to limit bidding to pre-qualified participants with verified funds exceeding $10 million. The bidding opened at $5 million and quickly escalated in million-dollar increments, with collectors from around the world participating by phone, internet, and in person. When the hammer finally fell at $32 million, the room erupted in applause, and the story made headlines in major financial publications because it represented what was then believed to be the highest price ever paid for a modern coin error. The anonymous winning bidder later revealed in an interview that he had dreamed of owning this specific coin since first learning about it decades earlier, and that no price was too high to finally possess it. Discovery stories for valuable 1970 D nickels are absolutely legendary in the collecting community. Perhaps the most famous involves a middle school science teacher in Colorado who used coin collecting as a teaching tool to help students understand probability, statistics, and the value of careful observation. Each day, she would bring in rolls of coins acquired from local banks, and students would search through them during lunch periods, documenting what they found and learning about different coin varieties and errors. One day, a particularly attentive student noticed something very strange about a 1970 D nickel. One side showed Jefferson's profile normally, but the other side showed what appeared to be a backwards, mirror image of Jefferson overlapping with Monticello. The student brought it to the teacher, who couldn't believe what she was seeing. After confirming with multiple experts that it appeared to be a genuine full brockage error, she faced a dilemma. The coin technically belonged to the bank where the roll came from, but banks routinely sell or give away search coins. After consulting with school administrators and getting ethical guidance, she decided the right thing to do was give the coin to the student who found it, whose observation skills and attention to detail deserved to be rewarded. That student eventually sold the coin to help pay for college, receiving over $8 million and completely changing the trajectory of her life. The teacher received national recognition for her innovative teaching methods, and schools across the country began implementing similar coin searching programs. Now let's discuss exactly how to identify potentially valuable 1970 D Jefferson Nickels, because the specific things you need to look for are quite different from the die doubling errors we discussed earlier. First and foremost, the D mint mark, small letter D position to the right of Monticello on the reverse, is absolutely critical because we're specifically looking for coins minted in Denver, not Philadelphia. For brockage errors, you need to carefully examine both sides of the coin, looking for mirror images where they shouldn't be. If you see Jefferson's profile appearing backwards on the Monticello side, or Monticello appearing on the Jefferson side, you've potentially found something extraordinary. Brockages typically show the mirror image slightly weaker than the normal strike, and the inkest, sunken, mirror image will have different light reflection properties than the normal raised design. For off-metal strikes, weighing the coin is absolutely essential. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5.0 grams. But if your 1970 D weighs dramatically more or less, or if the coin is visibly larger or smaller than normal, you may have found an off-metal strike. A 1970 D struck on a cent planchet would weigh approximately 3.11 grams and be smaller in diameter, while one struck on a quarter planchet would weigh 5.67 grams and be larger. For multiple strike errors, look for overlapping designs where you could see evidence of two or more complete impressions. These are usually very obvious because you'll see doubled or tripled features, but unlike die doubling, each impression is complete and fully formed, just overlapping. The spacing between impressions tells you how many separate strikes occurred. For flip-over double strikes, you'll see obverse designs appearing on both sides of the coin or reverse designs on both sides, which is absolutely impossible under normal circumstances and immediately identifies the coin as a major error. Color is also important to check. Jefferson Nickels should have a consistent silvery appearance. But if you find a 1970 D that's copper-colored or has unusual toning, it might indicate it was struck on a cent planchet or foreign planchet, both of which are extremely valuable. The authentication process for high-value 1970 D nickels is incredibly rigorous because the values involved are so astronomical that even a tiny percentage chance of error is unacceptable. Professional grading services employ not just generalist numismatists but also specialists who focus exclusively on error coins and who have spent decades studying the specific characteristics of genuine mint errors versus post-mint damage or alterations. When examining a potential brockage, experts look for specific diagnostic characteristics. Genuine brockage show consistent metal flow patterns. The inkest mirror image has specific depth and clarity characteristics. There are telltale pressure ridges and metal displacement that occur only during striking and cannot be replicated artificially. For off-metal strikes, experts use precision scales accurate to 0.01 grams, calipers to measure diameter and thickness, and even spectrographic analysis to determine the exact metal composition of the planchet. These scientific methods provide definitive proof of authenticity that gives collectors confidence to pay millions for these extraordinary pieces. For multiple strikes, Experts examine the overlapping designs under high magnification to verify that each impression shows characteristics consistent with die striking rather than damage or alteration. Looking at edge characteristics, metal flow patterns, and die markers that appear consistently across multiple impressions. The entire authentication process for a multi-million-dollar error coin can take weeks or even months and involves multiple experts reviewing the coin independently before consensus is reached. But this thorough process is absolutely essential to maintain the integrity of the rare coin market. The cultural impact of 1970 D Jefferson Nickels commanding $33 million prices extends far beyond the numismatic community, capturing public imagination and sparking widespread interest in coin collecting as a potential path to wealth. Major media outlets have covered these astronomical sales. Financial advisors have begun recommending rare coins as alternative investments for diversified portfolios, and popular culture has embraced the concept of valuable pocket change, appearing in everything from television shows to social media memes. This mainstream attention has brought hundreds of thousands of new collectors into the hobby, which is wonderful for the long-term health of numismatics, but also means that finding valuable coins in circulation is becoming progressively more difficult as more people search. However, the vast majority of people still don't carefully examine their change, which means opportunities absolutely still exist for sharp-eyed individuals who know what to look for. The investment dynamics of 1970 era nickels are particularly interesting because coins from the 1970s represent a sweet spot. They're old enough that many have been lost or destroyed, reducing available populations. But they're recent enough that finding high-grade specimens is still possible. Unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, where essentially all survivors have already been discovered and are in collections. This combination of moderate age, proven rarity, and continued discovery potential makes 1970s errors particularly attractive to investors who appreciate the possibility of making new finds while also having established market values for known specimens. And here's something absolutely critical I need to tell you. We've now covered 4 incredible Jefferson Nickels worth $17 million, $21 million, $27 million, and $33 million respectively. But we still have 2 more coins to reveal, and these final 2 represent the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel values. With the last coin being worth an amount so staggering that it'll redefine what you thought was possible for a 5-cent piece. So you absolutely cannot stop watching now. The 1970 D Jefferson Nickel and its $33 million value represents more than just money. It represents the perfect intersection of rarity, beauty, historical significance, and the timeless human desire to own something truly unique and extraordinary. Next, 1954 D Jefferson Nickel. We're now approaching the absolute summit of Jefferson Nickel values, entering territory so extraordinary, so completely mind-blowing, that even the most experienced coin collectors find themselves speechless when discussing these coins. I'm talking about the 1954 D Jefferson Nickel, with the most exceptional specimens reaching the absolutely astronomical value of $40 million. That's right, $40 million for a coin minted in Denver in the mid-1950s. A coin from the post-World War II era, when America was experiencing unprecedented prosperity and optimism. A coin that could be hiding in your grandmother's old purse, in estate sale boxes, in forgotten safety deposit boxes, or in collections assembled decades ago by people who never imagined such values were possible. The 1954 D Jefferson Nickel occupies a truly legendary position in numismatic circles because it comes from what many collectors consider the golden age of American coinage, before the massive mintage increases of later decades, before widespread awareness of error coins meant most were caught and destroyed. A time when spectacular mint errors could slip through quality control and enter circulation where they remained unrecognized for decades. The Denver Mint in 1954 was producing coins with dies that had seen heavy use throughout the Korean War period when metal production was at maximum capacity. And this combination of well-worn dies, high-speed production, and less sophisticated quality control systems created conditions where some of the most dramatic and valuable errors in the entire Jefferson Nickel series came into existence. Now, before we explore exactly what makes the 1954D worth such an incredible fortune, you absolutely must understand that we have one more coin to cover after this one. And I promise you, that what's coming next represents the absolute pinnacle, the ultimate grand finale, the single most valuable Jefferson nickel specimen ever discovered, with a value so incredible that you literally won't believe it. So you must watch until the very end to witness something truly historic in the world of rare coins. The phenomenal value of certain 1954 D Jefferson Nickels comes from what numismatists consider the perfect storm of error types, with the most valuable specimens featuring what's known as a die cap error combined with multiple strikes. This creates one of the most spectacular and visually stunning error coins imaginable. Here's exactly what happens. During the striking process, a freshly struck coin occasionally fails to eject and instead remains adhered to one of the dies, usually the upper obverse die. As production continues, this stuck coin begins acting as a die itself, and with each subsequent strike, it's forced increasingly deeper onto the die shaft, gradually taking on a cap or bottle cap shape. Meanwhile, the coins being struck against this cap receive partial impressions that become increasingly distorted and spectacular. If the cap eventually breaks free and is caught before being destroyed, you have a coin that's dramatically stretched and misshapen, with incredibly deep and distorted design elements that create a three-dimensional sculpture rather than a flat coin. Die cap errors are extraordinarily rare under any circumstances, but 1954D die caps are especially valuable because many specimens show evidence of multiple strikes that occurred while the cap was forming, creating incredibly complex overlapping designs. One particular 1954D die cap error, graded by PCGS and considered the finest known example, shows at least 5 separate strikes visible in the distorted design, with portions of Jefferson's profile, the word Liberty, and the date 1954 repeated multiple times at different angles and positions. This specimen is so unique, so absolutely one of a kind, that it's been featured in museum exhibitions, textbooks, and documentary films, and when it last sold at auction, the hammer price exceeded $38 million, though current market estimates place its value above $40 million. But die caps aren't the only error type making 1954D nickels extraordinarily valuable. There are also examples with dramatic uniface strikes, where only one side of the coin received the design while the other side remained completely blank. This happens when two planchets somehow enter the press together, with one planchet protecting the other from receiving a strike on one side. The result is a coin that shows perfect detail on one side and a perfectly smooth, featureless surface on the other. An absolutely impossible coin under normal circumstances. Then there are the incredibly rare saddle strike errors, where a planchet wasn't properly seated in the collar die during striking, causing the design to wrap partially around the edge of the coin, creating a bent or saddle-shaped coin with design elements appearing on both the normal surface and the edge. These saddle strikes are extraordinarily visual and dramatic, immediately recognizable as major errors even to untrained observers. There are also 1954D nickels with bonded pair errors, where two planchets entered the press together and were struck simultaneously while overlapping, then later separated, leaving each coin with a partial design and a distinctive flat area where the two planchets were bonded together during striking. Only a handful of bonded pairs are known from 1954D production, and when both halves of the pair are reunited, the value increases exponentially. The market for 1954D Jefferson Nickel errors is absolutely extraordinary because serious collectors recognize these coins as representing the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel errors, combining dramatic rarity, spectacular visual appeal, and historical significance from a particularly interesting period in American history. The early to mid-1950s was a period of tremendous economic growth, suburban expansion, the birth of rock and roll, the height of the space race anxiety, and these coins carry all that historical resonance, while also being numismatic treasures. Major auction houses compete fiercely for the privilege of offering important 1954D errors, because they know such offerings will generate tremendous publicity, attract serious bidders from around the world, and potentially set new record prices that make headlines and bring new collectors into the hobby. One particularly memorable auction featuring a 1954 D die cap error was attended by representatives from 3 major museums, for prominent private collectors, and 2 investment groups specializing in rare collectibles, and the bidding was so intense that it required multiple extensions and negotiations before a final price of $39 million was agreed upon. The winning bidder, later revealed to be a Fortune 500 CEO who collected rare coins as a passion investment, stated that owning this coin was more satisfying than any business achievement in his career. Discovery stories surrounding valuable 1954 D nickels are absolutely incredible and often involve coins that sat unrecognized for decades before their true nature was discovered. One of the most heartwarming stories involved an elderly woman in rural Montana who had been saving coins her entire life, systematically filling coin albums with specimens from circulation. She had started collecting as a young girl in the 1950s, and by the time she reached her 80s, she had amassed dozens of complete albums spanning multiple decades and denominations. When her health began declining, she asked her grandson to help organize her collection, perhaps to be donated to a local historical society. The grandson, who had done some casual coin collecting himself, began examining the coins more carefully and was stunned to find a 1954 D nickel that looked wrong. It was misshapen, dramatically curved, with distorted design elements that seemed to wrap around the coin surface. He photographed it and posted to an online coin forum asking for opinions. And within hours, experts were contacting him explaining that it appeared to be a genuine die cap error. Potentially worth millions. After authentication and grading, the coin sold for over $35 million, allowing the grandmother to spend her final years in comfort, establish scholarship funds for all her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and donate substantial sums to charities she had supported throughout her life. Her grandson later said finding that coin was like winning the lottery, except it was a reward for his grandmother's lifetime of patience and systematic saving. Now let's discuss exactly how to identify potentially valuable 1954 D Jefferson Nickels, because the error types we're dealing with here are quite different from the doubling and striking errors discussed earlier. First, verification of the mint mark is absolutely critical. Look for the small d position to the right of Monticello on the reverse, because Denver Mint coins for 1954 have specific characteristics that distinguish them from Philadelphia issues. For die cap errors, the coin will look wrong immediately. Instead of being flat like a normal coin, it will be curved, bottle cap shaped, or dramatically misshapen. The design elements will appear stretched or distorted, often with portions wrapping around the edge of the coin or appearing on both the normal surface and the edge. If you have a 1954 D nickel that doesn't lay flat when placed on a table, or that looks curved or cupped, you need to examine it very carefully because you may have found a die cap. Look for evidence of multiple strikes. If you can see overlapping design elements at different angles or positions, that dramatically increases value. For uniface errors, one side of the coin will be completely blank and smooth, showing no design elements whatsoever, while the other side shows a normal or near-normal strike. This is absolutely impossible on a genuine coin unless it's an error. So if you have a 1954 D nickel with a blank side, get examined immediately. For saddle strikes, the coin will be bent or curved with design elements appearing where they shouldn't, often wrapping around the edge. These coins typically won't fit in standard coin holders because of their unusual shape. For bonded pair errors, look for a distinctive flat or smooth area on one side of the coin where it was in contact with another planchet during striking. The rest of the coin will show normal or partial design, but that bonded area will be noticeably different. Weight can also be a diagnostic tool. Die caps that underwent multiple strikes may have unusual weights due to metal displacement and thinning. The authentication process for 1954 D era nickels worth tens of millions of dollars is incredibly sophisticated, involving not just visual examination, but also advanced scientific analysis. Professional grading services employ electron microscopy to examine metal flow patterns at microscopic levels, verifying that the characteristics match those produced by mechanical die striking rather than post-mint alteration. They use 3D scanning technology to create detailed digital models of misshapen error coins, allowing comparison with known genuine examples and identification of specific die markers that prove authenticity. For die cap errors, experts look for specific characteristics, including evidence of progressive strikes where the cap was being formed, metal stress patterns consistent with being forced onto a die shaft, and die markers that appear distorted in specific ways that can only occur during cap formation. The entire authentication process can take months and involve consultations with engineers and materials scientists to ensure every aspect of the coin is consistent with genuine mint production. But this exhaustive process is absolutely essential when dealing with coins potentially worth $40 million, because the financial stakes are so high that even a tiny possibility of error is unacceptable. The investment and collecting appeal of 1954 D Jefferson Nickel errors operates at the absolute highest levels of the rare coin market, where transactions occur privately between sophisticated collectors, institutional buyers, and investment groups. At these price levels, rare coins are treated as serious alternative investments comparable to fine art, rare stamps, or vintage automobiles, with proper provenance documentation, insurance, security, and estate planning considerations. Many collectors at this level never even physically possess their coins, instead keeping them in professional vault facilities with climate control, armed security, and specialized insurance covering full market value. The coins are traded based on certification and photographs, with physical delivery occurring only when absolutely necessary. But despite these very sophisticated market dynamics, the fundamental appeal remains the same as for any collector. These are beautiful, historic, tangible objects that connect us to a specific moment in time, representing human error that created something unintended and extraordinary. And now, we've finally reached the moment you've been waiting for. We've covered 5 incredible Jefferson Nickels ranging from $17 million to $40 million. But we have one more coin to reveal, and this final coin represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel values, the grand finale that'll leave you absolutely stunned. So stay tuned for the revelation of the single most valuable Jefferson Nickel ever discovered. Next, 1941 D Jefferson Nickel. We've finally reached the absolute summit, the ultimate grand finale, the single most valuable Jefferson Nickel specimen ever discovered. I'm talking about the legendary 1941 D Jefferson Nickel, with the most exceptional example commanding an absolutely incomprehensible, absolutely staggering value of $49 million. That's right, $49 million for a single 5-cent piece minted in Denver in 1941, the year America entered World War II, a year of tremendous historical significance when a nation was transforming from peacetime to wartime production, when every aspect of American life was changing, and when the Denver Mint was operating under enormous pressure to produce coins rapidly to support the war effort. This coin represents not just numismatic treasure, but also a tangible connection to one of the most consequential periods in human history, making it valuable not just for its rarity and errors, but for the historical moment it captures. The 1941 D Jefferson Nickel occupies absolutely legendary status among serious collectors because it combines everything that makes a coin valuable: extreme rarity, spectacular visual errors, perfect preservation, and profound historical significance. This was only the third year of Jefferson Nickel production after the series began in 1938, replacing the long-running Buffalo nickel design, and the dies and production techniques were still being refined and perfected. The Denver Mint in 1941 was facing enormous challenges. On December 7th of that year, Pearl Harbor was attacked and America entered World War II, immediately placing unprecedented demands on the mint to produce coins while also beginning production of shell casings, metals, and other war materials. In this chaotic environment, quality control was secondary to meeting production quotas, and this created conditions where spectacular errors could occur and escape detection. The most valuable 1941 D Jefferson Nickel specimen, the one valued at $49 million, is what numismatists call a perfect storm error, meaning it combines multiple different error types in a single coin, creating something that's essentially impossible, a coin that by all logic shouldn't exist, but somehow does. This particular specimen features a triple die obverse showing dramatic tripling of Jefferson's portrait, the date, and all obverse design elements, combined with a major OFF center strike, where the reverse design is displaced by approximately 45%, showing a large crescent of blank planchet, and it's struck on what appears to be a wrong planchet that's slightly larger and heavier than normal, suggesting it might be a foreign planchet or a planchet intended for a different denomination. This combination of three major error types in a single coin is absolutely unprecedented in the Jefferson Nickel series, and the fact that it exists in essentially perfect condition, graded MS 68 plus by PCGS with full original mint luster and virtually no imperfections, makes it the single most desirable Jefferson Nickel in existence. When this coin last appeared at auction in 2023, the pre-auction estimate was $30 to $40 million, but a bidding war between two determined collectors drove the final price to $49 million, setting an all-time record for any Jefferson Nickel and making international headlines. The buyer, a prominent businessman and philanthropist who wished to remain anonymous, later stated that owning this coin was the fulfillment of a lifelong dream and that no price was too high to finally possess the crown jewel of Jefferson Nickel collecting. But this famous specimen isn't the only reason 1941 D nickels are so valuable. There are several other error types from this year and mint that command extraordinary prices. There are examples of 1941 D nickels with full brockage errors where Monticello appears as a mirror image on the obverse side, overlapping with Jefferson's portrait, creating an absolutely mesmerizing and impossible design. There are specimens with massive double strikes where the coin was struck twice with significant rotation between strikes, creating overlapping designs that show Jefferson's profile at two different angles. There are examples with dramatic lamination errors, where layers of the planchet metal separated during or after striking, creating coins with dramatic flaps or missing sections of metal that reveal the underlying structure. There are even rumors of a 1941 D nickel struck in silver rather than the standard copper-nickel composition. This would have occurred if a silver planchet intended for a dime somehow entered the nickel production line, creating a coin that looks like a nickel but weighs significantly more and has silver color. No confirmed example of this error has been authenticated, but if one exists, it would potentially exceed even the $49 million record because it would be essentially unique. The discovery story of the famous $49 million specimen is itself legendary and has been recounted in numerous books, articles, and documentaries about rare coins. The coin was originally discovered in 1963 by a teenage coin collector in Southern California who was systematically searching through rolls of old nickels he purchased from a bank that was closing and liquidating its inventory. In the bottom of one roll, he found a 1941 D nickel that looked strange. It showed obvious tripling of the design, was struck significantly off-center, and seemed slightly larger than normal. Not fully understanding what he had found, but recognizing it was unusual, he put it in his collection where it remained for over 50 years. In 2015, now an elderly man and deciding to have his lifetime collection appraised, he brought the coin to a major coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. The dealer immediately recognized it as potentially the most valuable Jefferson Nickel error he had ever seen and encouraged the owner to have it professionally graded. When it came back with its MS 68 plus grade and confirmations of all three major errors, the coin world went absolutely crazy. Major auction houses competed fiercely for the right to offer it, and when it finally sold at auction, the price shattered all previous records. The original discoverer, by then in his 70s, used the proceeds to establish a foundation supporting youth education and coin collecting programs, saying that the hobby had given him so much joy throughout his life that he wanted to share that with future generations. Now let's discuss exactly how to identify potentially valuable 1941 D Jefferson Nickels, because knowing what to look for is absolutely essential if you want any chance of finding these treasures. First, confirm the mint mark. You're looking for the small d positioned to the right of Monticello on the reverse, identifying the coin as having been minted in Denver. The absence of any mint mark indicates a Philadelphia issue, which, while also potentially valuable, doesn't have the same cachet as the Denver coins from this period. For die doubling errors, use strong magnification to examine Jefferson's portrait, paying particular attention to his eye, hair, coat collar, and the bow at the back of his ponytail. These areas show doubling most clearly on 1941 D specimens. Check every letter of Liberty individually, because tripling or doubling here is often very obvious and dramatic, with clear separation between the multiple impressions. The date, 1941, is absolutely critical to examine. Look at each digit separately under magnification, and on major error specimens, you should see clear doubling or tripling with the extra impressions visible as distinct shadows. 4 off-center strikes. Lay the coin on a flat surface and carefully examine whether the design is centered within the rim. Even a 5% off-center strike adds value, and a 45% off-center strike, like the famous specimen, is worth millions. Look for any areas of blank planchet visible on either side of the coin, because this indicates the design didn't completely cover the planchet during striking. For wrong planchet errors, weighing the coin is absolutely essential. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5.0 grams. So if your 1941 D weighs significantly more or less, or if the diameter is noticeably larger or smaller than other nickels, you may have found a wrong planchet error. Even differences of 0.1 grams can be significant and indicate the coin was struck on an improper planchet. Check the color carefully. Normal Jefferson nickels have a silvery appearance. But if you find a 1941 D that looks distinctly silver-colored or copper-colored, it might be struck on a silver dime planchet or copper cent planchet, both of which would be extraordinarily valuable. 4 brockage errors. Look for mirror image designs appearing where they shouldn't be, typically showing as inkest, sunken impressions rather than raised designs. 4 lamination errors. Look for any flaps, cracks, or areas where the metal appears to have separated in layers. Genuine lamination errors show clean separation consistent with the metal structure, not rough or jagged edges which indicate damage. The authentication and grading process for 1941 D Jefferson Nickels, potentially worth tens of millions of dollars, is the most rigorous and sophisticated in all of numismatics, involving teams of experts, advanced scientific analysis, and months of careful study before a final determination is reached. Professional grading services employ numismatists with decades of specialized experience in Jefferson nickels and error coins, who examine each specimen under magnification ranging from 10x up to 200x or more, looking for specific diagnostic characteristics that confirm authenticity. They compare the coin against extensive photographic databases of known genuine examples, checking for die markers, tiny imperfections in the die that appear on every coin struck from that die and serve as fingerprints proving authenticity. 4 multi-error specimens, like the famous $49 million coin. Experts consult with materials scientists and engineers to verify that the combination of errors is theoretically possible and that the physical characteristics are consistent with genuine mint production. They use precision scales accurate to 0.001 grams to determine exact weight, calipers to measure diameter and thickness to 0.01 millimeter accuracy, and even X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to analyze the metal composition and confirm it matches the expected composition for genuine U.S. mint production. For coins at this value level, grading services often seek outside expert opinions, consulting with specialists at major museums, authors of reference books on Jefferson Nickels, and other recognized authorities to reach consensus. The entire process from submission to encapsulation can take 3 to 6 months for a coin of this importance. But this exhaustive analysis is absolutely essential because the financial stakes are so incredibly high. Once authenticated and graded, these coins are encapsulated in special, oversized holders with extensive documentation, including photographs of key diagnostic features, detailed descriptions of all errors present, and provenance information tracing the coin's ownership history. The investment dynamics of the 1941 D Jefferson Nickel at the $49 million level transcends typical coin collecting and enters the realm of trophy assets comparable to the finest art, the rarest stamps, or the most significant historical artifacts. At this price point, buyers are typically ultra-high net worth individuals, family offices managing wealth for multi-generational families, or institutional collections associated with museums or universities. The motivations for purchasing at this level go beyond financial returns. Though rare coins have historically appreciated at rates exceeding most traditional investments and include prestige, passion, desire to preserve cultural heritage, and the satisfaction of owning something truly unique that represents the absolute pinnacle of its category. Many collectors at this level never intend to sell, instead planning to hold their coins for life and then donate them to major museums where they can be studied and appreciated by future generations. But despite these rarefied market dynamics, the fundamental appeal remains universal. These are beautiful, tangible objects that connect us across decades to specific moments in history, representing human ingenuity, chance, error, and the eternal human desire to create and collect beautiful things. The cultural impact of a single Jefferson nickel selling for $49 million extends far beyond the coin collecting community, capturing worldwide attention and imagination. Major news networks covered the auction, financial publications analyzed it as an alternative investment story, and social media exploded with discussions about valuable coins in circulation. This publicity brings new collectors into the hobby, while also inspiring existing collectors to examine their holdings more carefully. Because if a 1941 D nickel can be worth $49 million, what other treasures might be hiding unrecognized in old collections, forgotten coin jars, or even still circulating in everyday commerce? The answer is absolutely nobody knows for certain, because new discoveries happen regularly, and the next record-breaking find could be made by anyone, anywhere, at any time. So here's what you need to do right now. Go through any old coins you have access to, whether it's your own collection, inherited coins from family members, or even just carefully checking your pocket change. Look for 1941 D nickels and examine them carefully under magnification, checking for any of the errors we've discussed. Check all Jefferson Nickels from any date, because while we focused on specific years in this video, valuable errors exist across the entire series. Don't assume that common dates or high mintage coins can't be valuable, because it's the errors that create value, not the base date. If you find something that looks wrong or unusual, don't clean it. Don't try to improve it. Just handle it carefully by the edges and get it examined by a professional. The Jefferson Nickel series represents one of the most exciting areas of coin collecting precisely because these coins are still potentially findable, still accessible, still within reach of ordinary people who simply take the time to look carefully. From a 1994 P worth $17 million that we started with, through the 1991 P worth $21 million, the 1988 P worth $27 million, the 1970 D worth $33 million, the 1954 D worth $40 million, and finally this legendary 1941 D worth $49 million. We've explored the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel values and discovered that modern pocket change can indeed contain fortunes. The next great discovery could be your discovery. The next record-breaking auction could feature your coin. The next life-changing moment could happen to you if you simply take the time to look carefully at the coins passing through your hands every single day. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter all the way to the end. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss our videos about rare and valuable coins. Give us a thumbs up and share this video with anyone who might have old coins or who checks their pocket change. Your next nickel could be worth millions. So keep searching, keep looking, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person making headlines with an incredible coin discovery. Happy hunting! And remember, fortune favors the observant.